Good evening. About the only thing we can compare to Hurricane Hugo in Charlotte is the great earthquake of 1886, which, by the way, also came to us from Charleston. Buildings in Charlotte were damaged by that earthquake, and most of what we know about it comes from oral history, grandparents telling their grandchildren about the great earthquake. Well, our children's grandchildren will also hear about Hurricane Hugo like that. In family stories about the tree that hit Granddad's roof, they'll be told stories about the storm. But thanks to this special, they'll also have another record, and that's why we at WSOC TV wanted to do this. Our community memory of the storm will be composed of many things. It's something we'll never forget. And so we present the Hugo Video Scrapbook.
There are but a few occasions in our life that make an indelible impression, and fewer still that make it into words in a history book. The tempest arose and wearied me so that I knew not where to turn. My old wounds opened up, and for 9 days I was as lost without hope of life. Eyes never beheld the sea so high, angry and covered by foam, seething like a pot on a hot fire. Never did the sky look more terrible. For one whole day and night it blazed like a furnace. All this time, the water never ceased to fall from the sky. I don't say it rained, because it was like another deluge. The people were so worn out that they longed for death to end their dreadful suffering. Those words were penned almost 500 years ago by none other than Christopher Columbus, as his fleet was being battered off the coast of Dominica. And now we have a brand new storm to which the record books will be looking. And it began benignly enough as just a small weather system coming off the African coast. But as it got just to the south of the Cape Verde Islands, it then increased a little bit in strength and was named a tropical depression. But it was not until the next day, as it continued to move toward the west and increasing in strength all the time, that the winds got high enough that the National Hurricane Center determined it was a tropical storm and time to be named, the name Hugo. Continuing on that westerly course over the open Atlantic Ocean waters, it continued to get stronger. And by the next day, now was at 75 miles per hour, full hurricane. But it was to be days yet before it made its meanderings across the ocean, and then on September the 18th assaulted the British and American Virgin Islands, the islands of Guadeloupe and Montserrat, and eventually Puerto Rico. Now, as it did, the mountains of Puerto Rico helped to weaken the storm, and it began to change its path and move just a little bit farther to the north. We along the eastern seaboard breathed a collective sigh of relief. Maybe this storm would go harmlessly now out to sea, but not was the case. There now, as the storm began another westward and northwestward trek and took aim directly on the Carolina coastline. It was that time that we started to see the hurricane watches in preparation for hurricane warnings along the coast, and we all thought back to October 1954 as another storm with the letter H, Hazel, in October, devastated the Outer Banks and the eastern half of the entire state of North Carolina, with evidence, as you can see now, massive flooding and, of course, the wind damage and loss of life that numbered at that time in the hundreds. Now, as the storm Hugo moved closer to us and eventually made landfall right over the city of Charleston and brought the storm waves all the way from Myrtle Beach down to Charleston, as it moved inland, it began to pick up its forward speed. Matter of fact, raced past Columbia, heading directly for Charlotte, and it got here early in the morning hours. And, of course, with the highest winds here in Charlotte of 88 miles per hour. It continued to move to the north now, and definitely increasing its speed to its almost as high as 40 miles per hour. It eventually ended up all the way up by Pittsburgh. As a matter of fact, the storm, Hurricane Hugo, that assaulted us on that morning by 6 o'clock that night was no longer even an identifiable weather system.
Sunday, September 17th, Hugo heads for Puerto Rico.
Although the seas have started to swell, this could well be the calm before the storm in Puerto Rico. Folks here are covering windows, buying groceries, and making evacuation plans. Hugo could hit Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands by tonight or early tomorrow.
Monday, September 18th, Hugo hits Guadeloupe.
The storm hit Guadeloupe and the Virgin Islands yesterday, killing 9 people and leaving 10,000 others homeless. A charter boat captain watched the storm come ashore in St. Croix.
Looking down the lagoon, we see a lot of sailboats intertwined and a lot of A lot of sails ripped and a lot of trees down. Trees and power lines, and it looks pretty bad.
Tuesday, September 19th, Carolina waits.
In the last 2 days here in the Wilmington area, you can feel the interest in Hugo's pass peaking. No one has packed up and left here just yet, and no one's hit the panic button, but there definitely is growing concern.
Wednesday, September 20th, the coast prepares.
Back here at Wrightsville Beach, there are preparations, even unofficial preparations being undertaken right now. Again, the National Weather Service or the hurricane forecasters have not officially said anything about where Hugo may be coming, but up here they are anticipating a possible landfall along this part of the coast. They are taking small boats, pleasure boats out of the water along the intercoastal waterway. A lot of the motels, which would typically be filled up during the week. This is a nice time of the year to be down here vacationing. A lot of vacancy signs as folks are pulling out, heading inland because of the possibility of heavy weather.
People from Florida to Virginia are getting ready for Hugo because no one knows exactly where the hurricane will strike. In Charleston, the Navy sent ships at the naval base out to sea. They're safer riding out the storm there. Meanwhile, houses and public buildings are being boarded up in downtown Charleston with big sheets of plywood.
The grocery stores jammed on a Wednesday night. Hurricane shoppers wiped shelves clean of batteries, bread, and bottled water. Many shoppers had to search long and hard to find what they wanted.
Finding candles. Finding candles. Okay.
Snacks, canned goods, charcoal, lighter candles.
Like camping out.
Yeah, it's going to be. It's going to be exciting, huh?
Masking tape also is in short supply. Nearly every window in town has been taped up. Charleston is ready.
I thought sure we was going to drown last Wednesday night. Really, when the water started coming up to my chest, and I start screaming, hollering, praying.
The Hugo Video Scrapbook, brought to you in part by your local Carolina Dodge.
We saw a lot of this spirit, and while we're not out of the woods yet, we'll get through this thing. Channel 9 salutes all of you who've shown the true spirit of the Carolinas.
At a prestige
Day, 6 a.m., Charleston evacuates.
right now, there is a mandatory evacuation order for residents of Charleston, South Carolina. And the National Weather Service has just issued a hurricane warning for part of the North Carolina coast.
Landfall for Hurricane Hugo will probably be sometime after midnight. That'll be high tide, and it couldn't come at a worse time, a hurricane coming to shore at high tide. Right now, we're about an hour from high tide here at Myrtle Beach, and you can see even now how close the water is to the buildings along the coast. At this particular hotel, the owners say, with Hugo coming ashore at high tide, they expect water up to the second floor rooms in this high-rise hotel. So obviously folks are taking very seriously the mandatory evacuation order by Governor Carol Campbell that's been in effect since 8 o'clock this morning.
All morning long, traffic has also been streaming out of Charleston, another city that is expected to catch much of the fury of this hurricane. They were heeding the advice of this sign and a mandatory evacuation order.
It is imperative that all residents of Charleston County, especially those living in beach areas, low-lying areas, barrier islands, property adjacent to tidal creeks, and all mobile home residents in the county leave as soon as possible.
High water from Hugo threatens to inundate Charleston, of course, whose historic buildings date from the 18th century.
Thursday, 6 p.m., Carolina beaches evacuate.
Certainly does look like a very rough night ahead for all of us. It's been a very busy day along the coastline of both Carolinas today.
And we're going to start our coverage tonight in Myrtle Beach and it's on to Charleston and Savannah with live reports tonight. But first, Channel 9's Steve Gasquet in Myrtle Beach.
Well, Bill, Suzanne, right now there's a break in the rain here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. As you can see around behind me, every now and then a car will go by. A car full of people ordered to leave the beach by Governor Carol Campbell, by local officials, and by everyone else. As you can see, many of the businesses behind us have been boarded up. Many of them have the windows taped.
in order to keep flying debris from coming through and damaging homes or businesses. Now, we are here now at 13th Avenue North in Myrtle Beach, just about 10 blocks north of the pavilion. But we won't be here for long, because we also are affected by the evacuation. The National Guard will be here, as will the police, but they're making everyone leave the beach. Now, this has been building all day, the people's fear and the wind and the seas, as Hugo's angry skies grow closer and closer to Myrtle Beach. As the seas off Myrtle Beach grew angrier, public safety officials knocked on every door between the beach and Highway 17, ordering residents to get out.
We have mandatory evacuation. That's from Highway 17 to Ocean Boulevard.
Nearly everyone along the coast took their advice literally. Houses were boarded up. The beach was deserted. It appeared almost everyone was leaving. That is, almost everyone.
I'm not going to leave because I said that every hurricane that came by here, they haven't done nothing yet.
They say it's big.
Big?
They say it's bad.
Bad? I'm ruthless.
But then, late this afternoon, rain started coming down in sheets, almost horizontally. Stoplights tossed in the wind, and the seas grew angrier. Now, all up and down the Grand Strand, it's possible that no structure is more threatened by this storm than this pier, which extends about 300 feet out into the ocean. You can see the waves pushing up through the planks of the pier. And over here, at the end of it, is the Lighthouse Restaurant, which is just held up on stilts right above where the water is. And amazingly, at this time, people are still up in that restaurant. Why did you wait so long before you left?
Had to unload this building.
Well, it was full of equipment?
Full of arcade equipment and supplies and what have you.
But you're going now.
I'm on my way.
And it appears Hugo is on his way here, too. We'll be keeping an eye on this pier to see if it lasts through the hurricane.
Right now, we're the only ones allowed to be up here. That's it. There's somebody else.
In fact, Gary Johnson told us you better take one last walk on this creaky old fishing pier while you still can.
I tell you what, the seas are mighty rough, too. And this is just the beginning of it, so I don't know. Show us that pilot.
All right. The pier lost the mooring to the waves this afternoon. This sign shows why. The pier itself is only 6 feet above sea level, facing a storm surge of at least 11 feet.
And it was about right up here between the last railing and next to the last seat. This happened.
That's why the town's ordering a mandatory evacuation now.
Any clear, sir? More close,
Not just everybody off, but also nobody back on.
Curfew at 7 o'clock. We all meet by 7.
Officials in Charleston have been saying all day that we would start to feel the worst part of the storm right about now. And about 30 minutes ago, it was raining so hard here on the battery that you could hardly see 5 feet in front of your face. The rain has let up, but as you can see, it's still pretty windy. We're expecting about a 16-foot storm surge. So where I'm standing on the battery, once the hurricane really gets going, will actually be underwater. Bill, Suzanne?
I'll stay there,
A
David.
lot of friends of the battery here in Charlotte tonight. Wish you well, David. And the winds, have they really been rough, the winds so far?
Well, yeah, it's been really windy on the battery all day, but I think we're going to see some people walking behind me in just a second here. They're having people walking around here while they're kind of getting into the hurricane experience down here in Charleston. Not something they see every day in Charleston, something I guess they want to get a little bit of a taste of.
Thursday, 11 p.m. Hurricane Hugo slams into the Carolina coast with 135-mile-an-hour winds, the strongest storm to hit our beaches in 35 years. It will be a long night on the coast. Good evening. And not since Hurricane Hazel in 1954 has the potential for damage been as great in the Carolinas as tonight.
And right now, we are expecting a major blow from Hurricane Hugo, even right here in the Charlotte area. As you might imagine, evacuations up and down the coastline. Myrtle Beach was evacuated today, and tonight, our news crew was also asked to leave the beach area of the Grand Strand.
South Carolina's Jim Bradley is reporting live right now, about 20 miles away in Waccamaw, South Carolina. Jim?
Bill and Suzanne, it is getting very eerie here right now. Over the last half hour or so, the winds have really begun to whip up, and right behind me, in fact, I can count 1, 2, 3, 3 trees that have gone down within the last half hour. There are more around the hotel near where we're staying, and you can find big chunks of debris like this all over the place here. Again, it's getting very eerie. Now, we are only about 4 or 5 miles, actually, from the beach. This is where the evacuation limit is. You have to be at least this far away. And if this damage is this bad here, you can imagine what it's like right on the beach. Or actually, perhaps you can't. Channel 9 Steve Gasquet shows us exactly what it's been like.
It was only Hugo's leading edge, but still, it hit Myrtle Beach like a sledgehammer tonight. Slashing rain, heavy winds, and surf with waves up to 8 feet tall.
As the evening wore on, the conditions here on the beach got very dangerous. It's hard to tell what's stinging you more, the driving rain or the sand, which is coming up in billowing clouds almost to shoulder level.
And with the ripping winds came Hugo's first destruction. Down came the sign from the yachtsman.
On Ocean Boulevard, I was traveling south, and the signs were blowing off the buildings, hitting the trucks.
Next, Hugo tore down the sign at the Pier Arcade, then at the Catalina, then at the Neptune, and on and on. And as we left Myrtle Beach, we saw flashes of light in the sky. Folks, this was not lightning. These are power transformers blowing up. In Myrtle Beach, Steve Gasquet, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Now, this is one of the gusts we're in the middle of right here that we've been seeing all night long. You know, they come up and down, and occasionally you think that it's about here, then things will calm down. How bad was it right on the beach? This is what is left. I don't know if you can really tell. This is what is left of a pair of pants that our photographer John Belkey was wearing. He didn't rip them off. The wind literally blew them off of his body. It is very, very bad the closer you get to the beach.
And Channel 9's Jeff Sonia has spent most of the night in the Wrightsville Beach area, and he is joining us live there now.
You know, Bill, Suzanne, as bad as the weather is right now here in Wrightsville Beach, it is hard to believe that it's any worse farther south down the coast. We're about 50 yards off the surf. Back in that black hole behind us, the waves are cresting much higher now. Before, they were about halfway up the pilings on the old Wrightsville Beach pier. Now the waves are cresting over the top of the pier itself. There is no power on the island at all that we can tell right now. There was a 7 o'clock curfew, but it wasn't necessary to enforce it because we may be the last people left on this island that aren't wearing badges tonight. The police have a command post set up, but that command post is experiencing some of the same problems that police were worried about for island neighbors.
Everybody should be off the beach. I am not informed of anybody that stayed on that we need to pay particular attention to or anything like that.
You just lost their lights, it looks like.
That happens now and then once in a while. We're here on emergency power, so we'll be back up shortly.
Now, farther up the island, that's the bridge that links the mainland in the city of Wilmington with Wrightsville Beach. Police have been on guard all night, keeping people off the island, or at least trying to keep people off the island.
Well, we've had one incident, an officer stopped the vehicle, told the person he had to turn around, and the person said he needed to get on the beach to get a vehicle off. The officer said, I'm sorry, you don't have to turn around. And the individual full-boarded it and took off onto the beach and ran the blockade.
Following him on the island?
Yes, sir. A couple officers caught up with him, and he was charged.
Weather report from here at Wrightsville Beach, it's just hard to believe just how much the weather has deteriorated in the last 20 minutes or so. The winds are strong enough that I literally barely have to reach out to steady myself here, and the waves are cresting above the pier now. You can't see the waves, but they are inching up the surf behind us, partly because tide is coming in. We're about 2 hours from high tide, and partly because the winds are gusting and steadily coming in so much stronger now, Bill, here at Wrightsville Beach than they were even 20 minutes ago.
Jeff, are they going to close down the access to that island tonight?
As a matter of fact, the police said at some point they may even move off the island. That's just how bad the weather has deteriorated. It is worse than they expected it to be. They're coming up here about every 5 minutes to check on the surf conditions and, quite honestly, to check on our conditions to make sure that we're still okay. We're going to hang in here as long as we can, but possibly within the next 2 hours where we're standing will probably be underwater, and we'll have to move out with the police.
Okay, David Haynes is now joining us live on the phone. David, can you give us the very latest? I assume you've been out in the streets very recently trying to get to places where you need to be tonight. What's it like down there? We're reporting 100-mile-an-hour winds.
Suzanne, I'm in a car on the street right now. I'm at Meeting and Broad in downtown Charleston. If the winds are blowing at 100 miles an hour, that's probably an excellent estimate. This is like nothing I've ever seen before. It's like some kind of a vision of a watery hell or something. The wind is blowing and making these monster-like noises. It is absolutely terrifying to put it in a word, to be in downtown Charleston. They're expecting the eye of the hurricane to pass over here in the next 45 minutes to an hour and a half or something.
Thursday, midnight, a powerful storm. This is a WSOC TV update on Hurricane Hugo. For hurricane, winds are already gusting to more than 100 miles an hour.
There you see the storm just now assaulting the coastline at Charleston, and anywhere from Charleston north to Georgetown, Murrells Inlet, and Myrtle Beach probably are going to get the worst of that 12 to 17-foot storm surge. Then as the center moves inland, you see the expected path of it very close to Charlotte. That means that tomorrow we're going to have a stormy day, of course, including tonight, too. But tomorrow probably the worst of all. Some possibility of wind gusts to 60 to 80 miles an hour around here. So we want to make sure that you prepare everything around your house. Make sure that all those loose things, garbage cans and so on, and that the puppy's brought in. So things are going to be a little bit on the tacky side with as much as perhaps 6 to 8 inches of rain around.
I really think this is catching people off guard. They were expecting it here in Wright Beach to hit landfill about 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. rather. That's what they were preparing for. This has to be a surprise, not just to the folks here in Wrightsville Beach, but all up and down the Carolina coastline. They figured they had at least 2 more hours to get ready for this thing. And folks, it is hit, and it is big, and it is causing one heck of a problem all along the North and South Carolina coast right now.
The eye is not going to go through Charlotte. And she thought it was crazy. And then it did. Because I looked out the window, and it was just all gray. All the trees were like whirling around in the parking lot outside my apartment. I was like, oh no, is this really happening? My roof could blow off. I could die, you know, and it was scary.
There's no rain. There's no wind. As I look up into the sky, yeah, I can even see some stars. The eye of the hurricane is passing over.
Well, Suzanne, if you've never seen what landfall looks like at a hurricane, this is it. We are at Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, about 35 feet or so from where the surface is rising to right now. It is high tide, within about half an hour of high tide, and that plus a hurricane equals a lot of high water, a lot of high wind. You can't see it behind me, but all around us there are buildings, now vacant buildings. They've been evacuated a long time ago. The police had a curfew, as we mentioned, but no one was willing to risk staying out here in their homes because of the possibility of flooding. That possibility is becoming very much more real right now.
The truck that we were operating out of, the huge truck that we were operating out of, was literally in danger of being swamped. The wind was so hard that we could not get the doors closed. The doors were pinned against the wall of the truck to the point that they were jammed up into the door handles. We could not get the doors closed. We literally had to drive the truck away from the beach with the doors open. We were evacuating, but we thought we may have to leave the truck behind at one point.
Now, here in Charlotte, we're under both a tornado and a flood watch, and we will be at least until tomorrow morning. Winds are picking up outside now. There is rain all through the Channel 9 viewing area. Friday, 3 a.m., Hugo heads inland.
In Wilmington, where the brunt of the storm did not hit, although the leading edge caused quite a bit of wind, Channel 9's Jeff Saunier has been spending the most of the evening there, and he's joining us live now with the latest on the situation up in the Wilmington area. Jeff, how's it going?
Just how bad things are down in Charleston right now. But while the worst may finally be over for those folks, the worst is still on its way for the folks up here in the Wilmington area. We are now back in business, so to speak, about 10 miles from Wrightsville Beach, where we saw you a little while ago. Now we're near downtown Wilmington, and you know, after spending the entire night right on the surf, right on the beach, it's amazing to see the difference just moving a few miles inland is when it comes to this particular Hurricane Hugo.
We have had a tornado sighted close to our area. About a half hour ago, the National Weather Service reported a tornado was 4 miles north of Hartsville, South Carolina. It was headed west, moving at 30 miles an hour, and they say the hurricane is to blame for this tornado. But we do, again, want to remind you that our entire Channel 9 viewing area is under a tornado watch. Let's try to check in once again with Lieutenant Hare of the Charleston County Police Department. Lieutenant, are you with us? Can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay, great. We'd like to know very much from you, please, what the situation is like there. I understand the eye of the storm has passed through. What's the situation like there with regards to damage and things like that?
I just spoke with Captain Whitlock, who had been on the road, and he said that total devastation best describes it, that no area apparently was left untouched, and we've got serious problems.
Okay, unfortunately, the news is not good. It's not encouraging, and I'm sorry to have to be able to report this to you. We have just gotten off the phone with a spokesperson for the county of Charleston, and they described the situation to us as total devastation in Charleston.
Basically, Charleston County has been devastated. We have collapsed buildings, we have ships up in the rivers, we have hospitals that have collapsed, we have major damage to structures, we don't know how much loss of life we have injury, we were hit broadside head-on by a Category 4 storm.
Good morning, I'm Cullen Ferguson reporting. As Hurricane Hugo leaves a devastated Carolina coastline, it's starting to wreak havoc in our area. Already power lines are down throughout the Channel 9 viewing area. Wind gusts are up to 83 miles an hour, with the worst yet to come. By mid-morning, winds will be staying at 60 to 65 miles per hour sustained, gusting again to more than 80 miles an hour. This is going to last all morning, folks. It's going to be a very rough morning indeed. The eye is right now about to be passing over the Charlotte area.
Because the hurricane is so unpredictable, emergency officials have a difficult time deciding just how to tackle the problems it will cause. But plans to keep people safe are underway.
At this time, based on the reports that we have received in a preliminary nature, the Grady Cole Center is going to be open for people who have been forced out of their homes as a result of the damage or as a result of loss of power or for whatever reason.
There's even one report tonight that about 90 miles from Charlotte in Columbia, South Carolina, winds are blowing in excess of 80 miles per hour. And maybe from just looking at me, you can tell that those winds are headed right this way. Already, the force of the winds have caused damage in several parts of the city. Emergency officials say it will probably get worse before it gets any better. It looks as though Hugo will make a strong appearance in Charlotte. Right now, the only thing emergency officials advise is hold on and keep safe. Ron Fudge, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Let's take a look at storm track radar at this hour, show you what it looks like. We have a lot. That complete red donut around us is some fairly heavy rain, as you might well know. The beeping you hear around us are emergency messages coming in, and we also have the ham network who are reporting all sorts of problems around the region. If you don't have to go anywhere this morning, don't. The best thing to do is to wait this thing out. There's too much debris in the streets, and we've been hearing that kind of report all throughout the daytime hours today.
I'm Cullen Ferguson, and this just in, Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools are going to be closed today. Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools are going to be closed.
Friday, 6 a.m., a total Carolina assault.
The eye of the hurricane right now is moving over the Charlotte area, and wind gusts are up to 90 miles an hour with sustained winds around 45 to 50 miles an hour. All across the Piedmont, people are taking precautions, many hiding inside interior hallways away from windows. If you're not doing that, you probably would be well advised to do that. There are unofficial reports of a 10-foot wall of water crashing into the coast. Channel 9's Jim Bradley is joining us live via satellite now with more on how hard Myrtle Beach was hit. Jim?
Cullen, it's been hit pretty hard. There has been some substantial damage at Myrtle Beach. We do know that some roofs have been knocked off. A lot of power lines are down. Windows have been broken. We understand there may be some looting going on, and we do know that State Patrol people are keeping people out of Myrtle Beach right now. A lot of people anxious to get in. We can see a lot of cars on the road out here. They are, as we understand, not letting people in right now. So that's the situation, Cullen.
Yes, and Governor Carol Campbell has put out the message that ordinarily the National Guard is not armed in situations like this, but in the case of this storm, they are armed, and they're warning everyone not to loot. Thank you very much, Jim. And certainly daylight will soon be arriving down there, and they'll be getting their first good look at the damage at Myrtle Beach. Well, it's getting to be more dangerous by the minute outside. Winds have been clocked at 85 miles an hour here at the Channel 9 studios. We have crews out covering the city and what's happening. Our B.J. Harrison's just gotten back in. B.J., what's been going on out there?
It is more frightening than you realize, Cullen. We went outside about 4:30 this morning, and things were relatively calm. Wind, rainy, nothing we weren't used to, nothing we hadn't seen before. But then about 5 o'clock this morning, it got very dangerous. I literally got slammed against the wall of a building. I think the most frightening thing, though, is the downed power lines. You never know which ones are hot or which ones will kill you. That's why power lines are so dangerous. The trees were snapped and uprooted. They're everywhere on both sides of the street. They're across the street. It's very dangerous.
We here at Channel 9 have taken a bad hit from the storm. Our local broadcast tower on our front lawn, a landmark here at Channel 9, fell down about 15 minutes ago. We have another tower in Charlotte, so we will be able to continue to bring you broadcasts and satellite shots from the coast. But our tower out here on the front lawn has fallen and broken, and we have down power lines as well.
Well, Colin, we're back here at Wrightsville Beach for the first time since 2 o'clock this morning when we were evacuated by Wrightsville Beach Police because of a fear of 12 to 15-foot storm surges. Well, we're not sure if those storm surges hit along Wrightsville Beach or not. It is still dark and there is still no electricity in town. But from the looks of things, the damage here in Wrightsville Beach is not as bad as the police had feared.
Well, a high wind advisory is in effect, and that will continue in effect until noon for both North and South Carolina. Essentially, if you're in the Channel 9 viewing area, you're under a high wind advisory. There is also a tornado watch in effect until noon. A watch simply means the conditions are right for the development of tornadoes. We've already seen at least one confirmed tornado. That was in Hartsville, just to the south and east of Charlotte in South Carolina. That was about 2 o'clock this morning. An unconfirmed report of a tornado in and through Mint Hill earlier this morning, about 3 o'clock in the morning. And as far as what we can expect out of the rain, a flood watch in effect for both North and South Carolina. The rain is quite heavy. We recorded at least 2 inches here at Weather Center 9. Some areas could see as much as 6 to 8 inches before the heavy rains are over with this morning.
Here are the first pictures of the mass destruction that has occurred along Myrtle Beach. For all of you concerned about the situation down there, when Hugo hit about midnight, it hit Myrtle Beach hard. There's no official word on how high the storm surge was there when the storm came ashore, but estimates are 8 to 10 feet right now. A wall of water washing away the beachfront and destroying hundreds of thousands of dollars in property. In these pictures, you get some idea of just how bad it was there at Myrtle Beach. Some are, in fact, calling it the worst of the century, including Hurricane Hazel in 1954. Not only was the coast hit hard with much damage in Charleston and Myrtle Beach, here in Charlotte, there are mass power outages, some 200,000 customers without power, wires down, of course, trees down all across the city, and there's flooding. And to the south of Charlotte, a confirmed tornado earlier this morning in Hartsville, South Carolina. There was also an unconfirmed tornado in Mint Hill hours ago. And about an hour ago, Mecklenburg County Police reported a funnel cloud sighted along Reams Road near I-77. And so far, we know of 3 deaths as a result of the storm in the Carolinas. An infant in Union County died when a tree fell on the house the 6-month-old child was in and fell onto the crib. And 2 people died in South Carolina when Hugo ripped through the Palmetto State last night, one in the Columbia area, another down in Berkeley County north of Charleston. Now, this is a live look at some of the destruction and damage and flooding in Charlotte. This is around Idlewild and Rama Road, and there you see traffic signals down in the street. Also, we can't really tell there in the distance. There seems to be debris, trees down in the street there, and that is the story over much of Charlotte this morning. Very difficult conditions around the city getting around. These pictures should convince you to stay home. Most area schools are closed. Winds continue to be high. Water can move dangerously fast across streets and, of course, in creeks and streams around the Charlotte area. And so you're advised to be staying at home where you are safe. There's power lines down that can cause electrocution. So very dangerous conditions outside. Some of the worst damage of the entire storm, of course, occurred in Charleston, where the storm came ashore last night. Mayor Joseph Riley says that city has suffered damage unprecedented in recent memory. 30 major downtown buildings are reported to have collapsed. Boats have washed up on the streets of the city. People have been reported trapped in a collapsed condominium. We're continuing to wait for further details from Charleston. Channel 9's Jim Bradley has been standing by at the Waccamaw, South Carolina area near Myrtle Beach. He has the latest on the situation down there. Jim?
Well, Cullen, you know, overnight when we were here, all you could do was really feel how powerful this storm was. Now, with the morning's light, you can really see how powerful it is. A 90, 100-foot tree sheared off at about 10 feet, and there are others around here that look the same.
My wife and I were laying in bed about 12 o'clock. She wanted to turn to the news. It's going to come. It's going to come. It's not coming. And sure enough, it got us.
Carolina Carolinas with a fierce vengeance. Heavy damage in the Charlotte area. Mayor Myrick has declared the city a disaster area. And much of Charleston was devastated by the hurricane. There were a lot of concerns, of course, for the coastal areas of South Carolina and for the development along some of the thin stretches of beach down there. And Channel 9's Steve Gasquet has gotten out onto Myrtle Beach, and he joins us on the phone now with details. Steve?
Hi, Cullen. Photographer John Belkey and I walked from the Intercoastal Waterway across the bridge into Myrtle Beach today, and the farther we got to the coast, the more destruction we saw. We'd like to show you some pictures that we were able to satellite out of Conway just a few moments ago. The Holiday Inn downtown, where Channel 9's storm team reported live just a couple of days ago, the ground floor of that is virtually destroyed, flooded out. The boardwalk in front of it is gone. Palmetto trees lie through its windows. Other images we're seeing here, an underground parking garage completely flooded out to about the 7-foot level. The pier we reported on yesterday has been completely washed away. Nothing remains but sticks pointing up into the sky. The Pavilion Arcade is still there, but the boardwalk in front of it is gone. Now, among all the damage that we're talking about and that you're seeing, police say that there were no reported injuries and no deaths here on the Grand Strand in Myrtle Beach.
Well, Hugo marched through Charlotte beginning about 2 o'clock this morning. Heavy winds and rain damaged homes and businesses throughout the area. Roads in many parts of the Piedmont are impassable because of trees down across roads. Virtually all the Duke Power customers in Charlotte-Mecklenburg, some 200,000, are without power.
They came here looking for protection from the storm, run out of their neighborhoods, their homes by the high winds and pounding rains of Hugo. Billy Jones and his sister's family say they literally had no choice. They had to leave to survive the storm.
We lost their power and the trails started shaking. It was getting too high winds and trees were starting to knock down around the area and stuff.
The shelter lost its power, too, just after 6 a.m. But people still came, about 80 in all. Some of the younger kids slept through the storm, while parents listened to the radio reports, waiting for Hugo to move on. The phones stayed busy at the shelter, too, but Cherry Smith of Harrisburg said she didn't have lights or a working phone when she abandoned her mobile home.
It's bad. It's real bad. Real bad.
Were you afraid to be in your
Yes. That's the reason why I left, because I was scared, and so I needed to go someplace where I'd be safe.
By 11 a.m., the safe haven was starting to clear out. Folks were packing up and going home to see what was left of home. B.J. Harrison, Channel 9, Eyewitness News.
Of course, you don't have to look any further than your own backyard to see destruction left by Hugo. Channel 9's Mark Becker has been out in the city of Charlotte to see what Hugo did here at home. He's joining us live from a North Charlotte neighborhood. Mark?
Cullen, you're right. I don't think you have to go any farther than your back door, actually, to walk out and see something like this. We're on Keswick Avenue, which is off of North Tryon and North Graham Street. There is one tree here. I parked on the other side, had to skip over a couple trees to get to that one, as you see some cars down. What's amazing is people are out here already starting to clean up a little bit. I don't think anyone, though, expected Hurricane Hugo to hit here quite as forcefully as he had. In fact, people here say Hurricane Hugo may be the worst single storm this area has ever seen.
The damage here is so extensive that by mid-morning, the people running the city and county had made up their minds to ask for disaster area status.
We've had reports of trees down on top of houses, on top of mobile homes. We've had, obviously, wrecks.
Police and medic crews alike have been trying their best to carry on as normal. And perhaps because the storm hit in the middle of the night, they've gotten some help. There have been relatively few people hurt. But the power problem, that's a different story. This fallen power pole is in 4th Ward, but it could be just about anywhere in the city. That's how many lines are down here. But Duke Power says they're not even going to begin repairing lines like this until they're sure the storm is over. And city cleanup crews have been at it since early this morning, although it's sometimes difficult to tell. On the square, for instance, where they've been clearing debris from the office tower under construction. And it's very slow going.
Yeah, they wanted to get the mall open up because they knew there'd be people down here checking out their business and stuff, and we wanted to get it opened up so we could have a full thoroughfare through here. As you can see, it's a mess.
Now, you heard me say that the city hopes to get this area declared a disaster area by the state. That will make Charlotte eligible for aid from both the state and from federal agencies, things like the National Guard. People could be called in to help with the cleanup.
But I was pleased to note the high level of readiness and the cooperation in both states to deal with this. People responded to the emergency very well. The local law enforcement and other rescue and emergency units and volunteer organizations just do a magnificent job for us, and all of you ought to be very proud of that.
I think we had 40 trees here on the lots, and we got maybe 20 left, and about 5 of them on the house.
Unbelievable damage as you drive down the street. It still amazes me how much damage the winds did, knocking down the big oak trees.
Friday evening, 6 p.m., Hugo's Rad. If you can see this picture, this devastation, you are one of the lucky people with power tonight. This is Hugo's path from the sea. He has left behind 2 states in chaos. Take a look at Myrtle Beach. The Grand Strand not looking grand tonight after a Category 4 hurricane. Crazy is one way to describe what happened to us. This morning, Charlotte woke up to a disaster. Signal lights down or out at nearly every intersection in the city. People were told to stay at home today, and those who didn't often found flooded streets because the rains came fast. Perhaps Charleston took the worst of the storm. The mayor there asking people to stay away from his city, and Charleston is under a curfew tonight with guards standing by. Electricity is a major problem throughout both Carolinas. At least 1 million people are without power, and we're told it may be several days before the lights go back on. Property owners will be swamping insurance companies. This afternoon, Charlotte Mayor Sue Myrick surveyed the damage in Chopper 9.
I'll tell you, some of it looks so much like tornado damage. It really does.
And people are worried about the basics. Lines to buy food and other staples are long. The line at this drugstore stretched out the door today, and there were also long lines at the gasoline pumps. Only a few stations were open today because of the power outage. This station ran out of gas at 3:30.
There's no gas. No gas. It ran out. Yeah, I'm from out of town, man. Got no gas. I don't know what happened down here.
And then there are the trees. They were down everywhere today. Charlotte's civic signature twisted and broken in nearly every yard. But there was good news. It's the spirit of the folks in the Carolinas pulling together, neighbor helping neighbor in the cleanup.
Decisions being made at the City County Emergency Management Center, and that's where Channel 9's Mark Becker is joining us now with live details on the very latest. Mark?
Janet, late this afternoon, Mayor Myrick declared Charlotte officially in a state of emergency. Quickly, the county commission extended that to include all of Mecklenburg County. Now, under a state of emergency, officials could order a curfew, but they have decided in this case not to. Janet, Bill?
I know there's a lot of concern about the lack of electricity and some shortage of food, but I guess the good bright point is that we do have water. There don't seem to be any problems with that, do there?
No, the water we heard from county officials and city officials today, despite what you may have heard to the contrary, is clean, it is drinkable. Don't have to worry about drinking water in the city of Charlotte or Mecklenburg County.
Now, 2 of the pressing concerns for thousands of people today, power and food. Duke Power Company is telling us that some customers may be without electricity for several days. And more than 500,000 homes and businesses lost power at one time, 200,000 here in Charlotte alone. Crews are scrambling to make repairs. It's just that there are so many lines down, and in many cases, the crews have had to wait for big trees to be removed before they can even start their work. Now, lack of power means refrigerators are warming up and food is thawing out, and that has created this rush you're seeing on grocery stores. Many are still without power, and they're unable to open, and those that were able to open quickly attracted long lines today.
We drove around all the way around town all day, and hey, no place was open. No place whatsoever.
We went to Harris Teeter over at South Park and Harris Teeter at Sheeran Shopping Center. Neither one of them are open. So.
Okay, this store is just closed. What are you going to do now?
Look around for another store and probably go back to the 7-Eleven again and stand in line.
course, the staples, bread, soft drinks, milk, and ice are going very quickly. There will be a number of stores open tonight. Now, we've shown you the damage in Charleston many times throughout the day today, but I know that a lot of you have not seen that because you have not had electricity.
Yeah, that city is simply devastated. David Haynes watched it all happen last night and went into the city today to get the very latest, and he's with us now by satellite from Charleston. David?
I watched it all, and unfortunately for me, was right in the middle of it. Janet, this is a piece of roofing material. This is a very common sight on the streets of Charleston today, and this is also a very common sight. Yesterday, this was 3 office buildings just off Meeting Street. Today, as you can see, it is a pile of rubble. And that is pretty much the whole picture for Charleston and the islands, Sullivan Island, Isle of Palms, that are around this community. It is going to take a long time to clean up from last night's mess. People were huddled in the hallways of homes and hotels all over Charleston all of last night. Then, when the eye of the hurricane came through around midnight, people with flashlights came out to see the damage.
I opened the kitchen door here and came out and saw this copper wrapped around here, and it busted the railing here in the column and flew off the bank building next door.
This is it, the eye of a hurricane in downtown Charleston. It's about midnight right now, and as you can see, no wind in the palmetto trees. Everything is quiet. I don't even need a raincoat here. There is floodwater and some kind of debris, and it's all over the street down here. It's calm and it's quiet right now, but we all know that the worst of Hurricane Hugo is still to come. The damage from the first half of the storm was slight compared to what was found when Hugo had finally left. Nearly every street in the city has trees and debris on it. Power lines are down, and electricity is expected to be out for several days. There is no running water. Houses and buildings all over town have taken hits from Hugo.
Water was up over, it was up over that car and probably up to where probably up to where the brick wall is. Everything above, that brick wall must have been about 10 feet high.
At the marina, there are more boats in the parking lot than there are in the water. The National Guard has been called in, and a 6 p.m. till 7 a.m. curfew has been declared. Charleston has seen lots of bad storms over the years, but even lifelong residents say this was the worst. And those who stayed behind say next time things will be different.
I never will do it again. My daughter said, Mom, this is the stupidest thing you've ever done. And I said, well, it will be just fine. But during the time before the eye, I really regretted it. I really thought that we weren't going to make it.
Two things that people are saying. First of all, they're saying that things were not as bad here as they could have been, and they're thankful for that. The storm surge didn't hit Charleston, the 16 to 25 feet of water. They really would have put all of this right here underwater and perhaps still would have been. So they're thankful they didn't get that. That went a little bit north. And the other thing that they're saying is that this beautiful historic city is going to be rebuilt. Charleston has a long history, and a lot of times in its past they've had fires and so on. They were talking about how they rebuilt after that, and they're all promising already to rebuild it once again.
About 100 people were treated at Charlotte hospitals with storm-related injuries today. One woman is in critical condition tonight after a tree fell on her home. And there have been a lot of bee stings and insect bites. A lot of people apparently being stung from bees who were in trees, and folks are out looking at the trees, and the bees are everywhere.
Trees are uprooted everywhere, and of course many homes have been damaged here. Homes on streets still clogged with downed power lines and trees. Channel 9's Bill Coy has been visiting a number of neighborhoods today, and he joins us now live from Myers Park, where they have so many beautiful trees, or they did.
That's right, Janet. This is the intersection of Hermitage and Providence Road in Myers Park. And I tell you, if you haven't been out today, this is the kind of thing you'll see all across Charlotte. Sadly, what you're looking behind me at is one of the 100-year-old trees that they're so proud of in Myers Park here. It's just completely blocking Hermitage Road. That's a big problem here. Here is another problem. You've got a power line here. I'm certainly not going to be touching it. It may be hot. It's the kind of thing that we're seeing all across the town today, and it's one of the reasons why there's no power. Now, a number of these trees have just crossed roads in Charlotte, but on a number of occasions, sadly, these trees have hit people's homes.
About 3:30, the light pole over here snapped in half, which cut our electricity off, the phone and everything else. And then the wind started blowing, you could hear it, and the house was shaking.
Couldn't sleep, all the wind. I had never seen something like this before. It's the worst thing I ever saw.
It seemed like every half hour there was a boom, just a loud noise, and we run from one end of the house to the other end, and we find a tree at this end, a tree at the other end.
3 different families in 3 different Charlotte neighborhoods who all felt the wrath and power of Hugo. Bernie Kremens moved to Charlotte 6 weeks ago from the Virgin Islands to get away from the tropical storms of the Caribbean, to settle in a beautiful southeast Charlotte neighborhood landscaped with tall trees. This was a day to get by with a little help from your friends. Mary Ann Thompson's home was clobbered by trees and power lines. A huge branch punctured her roof. Her Uncle Ward Green has been working since dawn to help her dig out.
Well, it's going to take days. I expect to cut all this stuff out to get it out so we can get the cars out.
We've got to get that thing out of there. But, you know, the insurance companies aren't open, so you can't do anything. We first came out at 7 o'clock when it first started getting light, and the wind was blowing really bad then.
Blowing so bad was an understatement, and you wondered what was going through the mind of this little guy as he tried to understand why a tree crushed the front of his home. For those who left home, it was dangerous going. This is Carmel Road, where trees blocked driving lanes and crushed parked cars. Residential damage was spread and scattered all around town. These homes are in Myers Park. But it wasn't just homes damaged here. Hundreds of trees that took hundreds of years to grow came crashing down, blocking the boulevards, causing residents to reflect on the irreplaceable loss in this city of trees.
Well, you think about the time it took for these trees to mature and the neighborhood to mature, and then it'd be wiped out in just a matter of a few hours.
Bill and Janet, I think a lot of people are still trying to digest what all this means to their lives and the way that the city's face has sort of changed tonight. But right now they've got immediate questions like what are they going to do about food tonight if they didn't have any stored up, and certainly how are they going to keep their homes lit without any power. Back to you.
Yeah, Steve Gasquet has been there. He is in Waccamaw, which is near Conway. Steve, what's the situation?
Well, Janet, Bill, right now behind me, you can see some tens of thousands of cars lined up trying to get over the Intracoastal Waterway back to homes and businesses in Myrtle Beach. Photographer John Belkey and I spent 4.5 hours on Myrtle Beach today in the Grand Strand from the Dunes Club down to Murrells Inlet. And if what we saw is any indication, these people are in for a terrible shock. This is why the Grand Strand was locked down by law enforcement officials. Houses in Surfside Beach, torn away from their foundations by Hugo's wrath, thrown across the road like little boxes. A 52-foot luxury yacht and other boats, torn away from their moorings and thrown about the length of a football field into a parking lot. Last night, we showed you this pier in Myrtle Beach. This morning, it's gone.
This is just like a bad dream come true, and it's just totally devastating.
Riding in the back of an old pickup truck, we toured the Grand Strand from the Dunes Club in the north to Murrells Inlet in the south. It was like a police state. The Army National Guard is everywhere, heavily armed, driving their all-terrain vehicles. They are there to prevent looting and also to prevent injury by things like this. Power lines draped over the roads, not to mention mobile homes draped across the roads, Jeeps lying in ditches, signs shattered in the streets, sailboats careened all across a golf course, underground parking decks submerged, filled with water. The storm spared nearly no business, nearly no home, not even the house of the Lord. Now, as we said, there are a lot of people lined up right now trying to get back to their homes and businesses in Myrtle Beach. What they'll find, there is no electricity and no water right now, but still, they're lining up by the tens of thousands. Back to you, Bill, Janet.
Okay, thank you very much, Steve Gasquet in Myrtle Beach.
Of course, we weren't the only ones in this part of the state to take part of the hit. In Union County, again, we see trees on top of houses. The people who live in this house are all right. Union County officials are asking people there to conserve water. They've had several water lines break. Signs, wood, and twisted metal line the streets of downtown Monroe. And then there are the chicken and poultry houses. Many were flattened. Poultry owners say they will lose about 40,000 birds. The storm also ravaged parts of Lake Norman. The 80-mile-an-hour winds were enough to sink nearly 40 boats at the Lake Norman Yacht Club alone. Even the ones that are still floating are severely damaged, and many of them are going underwater. Damage was also heavy at the neighboring All Seasons Marina. Damage on Lake Norman is estimated at more than $1 million. While over in Watauga County, flooding was the major problem. Heavy rains made these apartments in Boone look like houseboats. The driver of this red car had her trip cut short by high water, and these planes might as well have been submarines. Highway 321 between Boone and Blowing Rock was closed by rock slides, and this convoy of propane tanks are a floating tribute to the power of wind and water.
We aren't sure exactly what to expect tonight. The darkness can bring on a whole new set of problems in a city that is almost entirely dark and without electricity. Officials decided not to impose a curfew here in Charlotte-Mecklenburg this evening.
And that is one of the options that they do have when we are under a state of emergency, which, as I mentioned, we are. And we'd like to know how officials are going to keep the order here. They have set up an emergency management center, and that's where our Mark Becker is right now. Mark?
Then this is where the decisions are being made tonight, and some of them being made even as we speak. Some will be released perhaps later tonight, early tomorrow morning. The mayor declared that state of emergency tonight after she got or this afternoon actually, after she got a chance to see the devastation and the damage really from the air. A view from Chopper 9 gives you an idea of just how widespread the destruction of Hurricane Hugo is. The police took their own helicopter up this afternoon, and officials say it gave them the best picture of the destruction as well. Now, they've been able to plan their answer to the damage by what they saw from the air. The first step, actually, is going to be clearing the streets. Second is going to be the garbage pickup and getting that back on schedule. And third is putting personal property back in order as well.
Hugo gave us a new respect for hurricanes last night, and as we dig out today, perhaps he's giving us, some of us at least, a new perspective on life. Channel 9's Joe McCreary reports from Conway, South Carolina, on one family's thoughts as they dig out.
As soon as the Richardsons get this tree cut out of their roof, they'll start on the other one. And then maybe they'll start worrying about their yard. Or maybe they won't.
I think we're blessed. We're alive and healthy. Nobody's hurt.
My family comes first. Always.
Like thousands of other people whose families just survived Hugo, the Richardsons know today that there are worse things than busted beams and flooded lawns. Worse things than the devastating power of what some call an act of God. Look, just a couple weeks ago, Mike Richardson had all the trees cleared out around the house, except for a couple that Cheryl wanted to shade the house. Last night, they fell. This morning, Mike and his sons had to cut them up, and Cheryl laughed.
Can't even believe those trees for me.
It's not just the trees and the land they really thought of, they say, last night. Not the house, not cars and boats, but the people, the neighbors, the two strong sons, each other. The people made it through.
They all I got.
And if it takes a storm to make you see it, well, some do call it an act of God. In Conway, Joe McCreary, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Friday night, 11 p.m., coping with the aftermath.
As the radio barks out information, the officer on the corner turned cars away one by one. The square is still too dangerous and too open an invitation for looters, with broken windows and shattered glass everywhere. But if police have one thing going for them here, it's the fact that this is one of the few areas of the city that still has power. Several blocks away, though, it seemed almost a different world. In the shadows of Brevard Street, officers David Lynn and Craig Davis answered a call. Possible looters in the wreckage of the Army-Navy store.
Well, we've got several burglar alarm calls today already, and we've worked one accident already. So in most of these buildings down here, the burglar alarms are out, so we're patrolling trying to prevent looting or breaking and entering.
This call turns up nothing, as most tonight will. A little bit later, another call, this on Wilkinson Boulevard. Here, the only light comes from the spotlight on Officer Jim Massey's car. It's a trophy shop with a broken window. Possibly storm damage, he says, but just one more suspicious call, of which he expects
more than our share. I think tonight will be triple the normal calls.
For 2 days now, we've been bombarded with the destruction and the heartache of Hugo. It's enough to make you wonder why anyone would want to live at the beach. Well, today, in the exodus of people back into Myrtle Beach, Joe McCreary found some answers.
One day it's paradise. The next day, paradise lost. Oh, my goodness.
Yep. All the roof's gone. I just was dreaded to come back because I had seen what it did at the Hazel.
What was here yesterday is here today, and here. And so is Carolyn Sanford, back after the angry sea and wind came in and stole their widow's mite.
It's not so bad. I just lost the roof off my porch and my swing and my trees and mostly my yard I resent.
For 49 years she's watched the sea here. She has a deed, but the sea has prior claim and awesome power, but that's okay.
Oh, I'm not going to move. My husband died 2 years ago, and the children love it, and they come to see me, and I wouldn't leave for anything. And I love it anyway.
So what if in 1940 the beach was wide? So what if just last night she lost her dunes? And the children who used to love to come here grew to be these men who help her now.
I just like to be here, and I like to look at it. The ocean is like a devilish woman. She's never the same. And you just look at her in the morning, and she'll be calm. And by afternoon, she's just a mess.
Some nights she goes on a rampage.
Yeah, she does.
Under all the rubble and the chance the sea will rage again, to some, it's still paradise. Joe McCreary, Channel 9, Eyewitness News.
Paradise also in some of the good people here at the beach who are helping others to clean up, as Joe just reported. But perhaps the ugliest side of humanity is here, too. Police say they don't have an exact number, but they've arrested a lot of people for looting, trying to make some money, capitalizing on these people's misery.
Well, Bill and Suzanne, here at Slug's Restaurant is probably one of the few places in Charlotte where you can find both light and food. Hurricane Hugo left a lot of people without power, but those people in the dark are finding things to do. Crews worked into the night trying to restore light to the hundreds of thousands of powerless Charlotte residents. Residents like George and Ruth Pappas, married for 22 years. And this is the first time in a long time they have sat by kerosene light and just talked about old times.
And I did talk about when I went to school up in the mountains, about 4 years.
Food on the grill and the spirit of partying in the air. This group didn't seem to mind being in the dark.
We're ranching, man. We've been using chainsaws all day long, clearing driveways and that kind of thing, and this is the only way we got to eat. You know, it's either this or go sit in the house that's completely dark.
Then there are your teenage cruisers. Light or no light, the music and cruising madness goes on. And so do all the jokes about the night when the lights went out in Charlotte.
Hey, try Bush. Oh, try Bud Light.
So a lot of people, Bill and Suzanne, are taking not having any light in stride. An interesting thing I find out once getting here to Slug's Restaurant is that the couple that you see behind me are celebrating their wedding anniversary, or wedding reception, rather. They were supposed to have the wedding reception uptown, where there was light, supposedly, but that didn't happen, so they came here where there was.
Get used to it now. It's not that bad. The only thing is like shaving and with the candlelight. That's a little tough. You know, I've cut myself a few times.
Day after.
Well, we're going to go out to the coast now. There is some good news to report from Charleston, South Carolina. Mayor Joseph Riley, pardon me, he has met with officials of South Carolina Electric and Gas, and he says they hope to have power restored to the hospitals there by late today. Again, to the hospitals in the Charleston area. They are number one on the priority list. We still have no word, though, on when the rest of the city of Charleston is going to get power. As you may have heard by now, Charleston is simply devastated by Hurricane Hugo. The city is being patrolled by hundreds of National Guardsmen who are there to prevent looting. We understand that 90 people so far in the Charleston area have been arrested for looting, and the mayor is asking that only residents of the city of Charleston try to return today. Don't go to Charleston just to see what's happened.
The NCNB building alone lost 65 windows, and there's still a lot of danger in the downtown area. The view from the NCNB building reveals some pretty heavy damage also in the First Union Tower. Work crews hope to have all the broken windows repaired in time for normal business operations on Monday morning. Saturday night, 7 o'clock, Managing Chaos.
We intend to cover especially those areas that are vulnerable to robbery and stealing if people do not leave. We have given a strong order. They will be arrested.
Now, it's important to remember that a curfew is not in effect. What police will be doing is arresting people in suspicious areas only after they refuse to leave, after they've asked them. Mayor Myrick has joined us right now. Mayor, let me ask you this. We've got 200 more National Guardsmen arriving, but beyond that, you called for some additional help.
Right. We have requested help with traffic because starting tomorrow, and especially on Monday, we're going to have a difficult time. The intersections the traffic lights are not working. They're not going to be back up for some time. Even the railroad crossings, people need to be certain that they stop at railroad crossings because none of the warning lights are working.
What's the first thing you did when the power came back on?
Praise the Lord.
But for every Fay Wingate, there are still 100, maybe 1,000 A.W. Cronkies, sweating up a storm outside with a freezer full of food melting inside.
So I imagine we'd probably be all right if we get some power shortly. But if we don't get it before very long, why, it's going to be SOL. Gone.
Most of us today are in the same boat, beaten for now by this and this. Most of us, but not all. Some people, it seems, are getting along just fine without Duke's power.
We've got a generator that provides power for our microwave, our crock pot, and the toaster oven behind us over here. And also the neighbor on either side, we're furnishing them power for the bare necessities.
Pete Halsey is a generous man, getting his neighbors hooked up with his generator, but obviously Pete Halsey is one of the few, not the many, in this situation. Still, many, many people without power tonight.
This huge oak tree is the reason that Steve Newman spent most of his day on the roof of his home in Elizabeth. Down below, he got some unexpected help from two guys who were driving by and just decided to pitch in.
I've got a chainsaw. I got two friends on this street. One didn't need my help. I ended up here second place, and you see what's happening.
The spirit is real important right now. A lot to do, and the more it gets done, the more people can get back to some kind of normalcy.
Getting back to normal is going to take weeks, maybe months. But neighbors pitching in to help neighbors is turning out to be a silver lining from Hugo's destructive cloud.
I think it is really a time where everyone's pulling together with one another.
None of us has everything we need, but together we're finding we can pool our resources and basically take care of each other.
I can manage to open a can of cold pork and beans and a loaf of bread, cheese, and that stuff because you just have to cope with what's going on.
Frank Burdell is one of many senior citizens living in Elizabeth. His home took a direct hit from this old tree. And like many people, he's worried about insurance.
The main thing is kind of get yourself adjusted, then talk to the insurance people. And hope and pray we can get it back like it was halfway.
Most people are trying to keep a good attitude about the aftermath of the storm, but here on Greenway Drive in Elizabeth, it's a little bit easier said than done because 9 trees are blocking the street. People are having difficulty getting in and out.
We've talked to the command center several times, explaining that Greenway is completely immobile and that we have elderly people here and people with babies, and they've told us we're on the list, that they can't give us a priority.
And the priority here on Greenway is to get the street cleared and open. The other major issue, like almost everywhere else in Charlotte, is power.
Some of the older folks in the neighborhood are worried about break-ins. The alarms are all down. They'd really like to be able to have some electricity to have some burglar alarms, if nothing else. Street lights are out. It's a little scary here at night, not knowing where you can go or how you can get help.
Right now, in most neighborhoods, it's a matter of getting by with a little help from your friends. Bill Coy, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
South Carolina Governor Carol Campbell today ordered 2,600 members of the National Guard to the South Carolina coast. They are there tonight to enforce a curfew. He toured the area again today and said that he has never in his life seen anything like it. The governor said it's beyond your worst nightmare. He said it was devastating. Damage along South Carolina's coastline is estimated at up to $3 billion. And of course, the hardest hit areas were Myrtle Beach and Charleston. Today, Channel 9's Steve Gasly went on an aerial tour of Myrtle Beach to visit and see the destruction and devastation left over by the hurricane.
You will not believe the pictures that you're about to see. Steve's been on the beach since Wednesday, and he is joining us once again live with a tour tonight.
Well, Bill, Suzanne, that's right. As you know, since Wednesday, I've been touring the Grand Strand all the way up from the Dunes Club all the way down past Murrells Inlet. And I thought I'd never see anything again like I saw yesterday when houses had been ripped off their foundation and were lying in the middle of the road. That is until I went up in the helicopter today. And I think it's fair to say, folks, you're not going to believe what you're about to see. From the sky, the damage to the Grand Strand is staggering. Garden City, where nearly every house is destroyed. Hurricane Hugo slapped back utility poles, where it threw mobile homes into a creek. The damage continues up the Grand Strand into downtown Myrtle. This is the hotel where Channel 9 did its live reports as Hugo was coming. 12 hours later, the entire bottom part of the Holiday Inn was destroyed. Just as Hugo angrily, violently pushed its way into people's homes and lives, people now are trying to push the effects of Hugo back out to sea. The sand that now covers much of the Grand Strand is slowly, painstakingly being returned to the beach. And now, before we show you our last pictures, let me show you this. 2 days ago, just before Hugo struck, at my father's house overlooking Murrells Inlet, he and I nailed boards over his windows, hoping for the best. But that didn't happen. The waves came right into Dad's house, took out many of his possessions, pushed his car 20 feet off the driveway, picked up his little storage shed, and moved it across the street. The house is now a total loss, and like so many other families up and down the Carolinas coast, Hugo will never be forgotten by our family. And you know, to make matters worse, Thursday, the day Hugo hit, was Dad's birthday.
A typical scene in Charleston after the storm. A family walking a few miles from a shelter to their home. It's a natural curiosity. What happened to my house, my yard, my car? The news for many, many people is not good. Once a family has picked its way through a street made unfamiliar by fallen trees, it is likely to find a house with no roof and a flooded first floor. Rooms without walls are common sights.
The wind was what was so scary, really. Think about the houses. I mean, they just moved both ways and up, and it was really scary.
What happened to the house you were staying in?
A big oak tree in the front and a big huckleberry tree in the back, but they both missed the house, but we did lose a back roof.
Once the thanks has been given for surviving, the real work must begin. And for the next few weeks, it's going to be done without the benefit of electricity. But there is no doubt that it will be done, that the graceful tree-lined streets and horse-drawn carriages will return. It won't come easy, it won't come fast, but Charlestonians promise that it will come.
This very proud city has weathered storms, hurricanes, tornadoes, and earthquakes, and each time this city rebuilt itself. Its history is a proud one, and so we put Hugo in that context.
There are no answers to most questions in Charleston this evening. No one knows for sure when the power will be back on, or how long it will be before fresh water starts coming through the taps. The only thing that is certain is the determination that this city will return. In the aftermath of Hurricane Hugo, Charleston residents have talked a lot about their history, and they say that they will restore that history and that they will rebuild. In some cases, that is going to be much more difficult than in others. David Haynes, Channel 9 Eyewitness News, Charleston.
It's the kind of thing that vitalizes life, and people will remember where they were and what they were doing, and they'll remember the specific place, and children will tell this to their grandchildren, and they'll tell it to their great-grandchildren. In fact, one of the most fascinating things about history is it's constantly expanding. And now Charlotte's history will always have Hugo in it. It'll have Hugo and Hugo. There are Hornets Hugo and this Hugo.
We're looking out at Biddle Hall at Johnson University.
Memories?
Memories.
Why? Tell us about this and its significance for Charlotte's disaster history.
Well, the bell up in the top of that tower rang on August 31st, 1886. And the reason that it rang was because the earth shook. There was actually a revival meeting being held, and the Charleston earthquake, it seems like we always get it from Charleston, doesn't it, came in August of 1886, and the people who were in front of that building were just absolutely frightened. And so this earthquake was remembered. Now, it's forgotten. Most people don't know it. Most people do not remember what they did not experience. But that was there were 4 tremors that night, and it scared people a great deal, and was something that was remembered just as Hugo will be remembered.
We really catch it from Charleston.
Charleston earthquake, Charleston
Our
Hugo.
neighbors.
That's correct.
Dr. Morrow, thank you for giving us your special slant on Hurricane Hugo.
More than happy to do it.
Saturday, 11 p.m., the National Guard moves in.
National Guard troops roll into Charlotte, ready to keep vigil over a dark and damaged city. The governor took 2 big steps today, ordering in the Guard and officially asking President Bush for some help.
Group of about 25 National Guard MPs arrived here at the National Guard Armory about an hour and a half ago. They are right now being briefed by city and county police, and they're going to be determining where and what parts of our city they will be patrolling. About 175 more National Guard MPs are on their way. As a matter of fact, you're looking at some of them that have just arrived just moments ago. They're getting gassed up, and then they're going to be heading out onto Charlotte streets until dawn. They're involved with what's called the deterrence show of force mission. The MPs began arriving at 9:30, and all 200 will assist Charlotte police to patrol areas of the city where looting and break-ins are most likely. They'll be operating out of these Humvee mobile units and police cars, and they'll be carrying loaded M16s.
Our military presence is just simply a support to the local police, and I don't know that it's going to deter any more than anyone else that's watching and looking. Hopefully, we won't have to take any direct action, but we are prepared to do that.
And there will be more help from the state on its way to Charlotte.
For traffic control, we need the presence in the intersections come, Monday when people start going back to work again, because the traffic lights are not going to be working. There's just no way for Duke Power to get it all up. There's 400 and some of them that are down, and it's impossible. So we need presence of them, and they will be working on state-numbered roads only, and that'll free up our people to do the other way, the other roads.
Now, Mayor Myrick says that about 100 National Guardsmen will be out helping with Charlotte traffic tomorrow. The idea is to try and cut down on the number of people who are driving a little too wildly in our city, where so many of our traffic lights are not functioning properly. As for these National Guard MPs, in terms of security, the mayor says they will be here patrolling our streets from dark until dawn, just as long as they are needed.
And obviously, besides water, you need food. And the scramble for food at the grocery stores has been a real adventure today for most folks. Today, people were lined up to buy their groceries, even if there were no lights at the stores. The stores were able to make arrangements to get other staples sent into Charlotte stores from Greensboro and other cities. Tonight, those staples started coming in. And at this Winn-Dixie store, clerks were filling up the shelves. Things with canned goods and cereals had been all taken off the shelves very quickly today. And for those who were doing their share of barbecuing something else, new bags of charcoal were hauled in.
I think I could deal with anything but going through another hurricane like we did. I don't believe I'd like to do anything like that again. Hopefully I won't have to in my lifetime.
Now, but the job is mammoth. It's dangerous, too. One Duke Power employee was killed Friday when he touched a live wire trying to repair the damage. Duke is calling in crews from other states to help, but the estimate again is 1 to 2 weeks before your power may be restored.
Moving around Charlotte this morning has not been easy. You'll find lines just about everywhere. This is what it looked like at the CIC Dry Ice Company on North Davidson Street. Lines were stretched for as much as 6 blocks. We're told they've run out of dry ice now, but CIC says it will have dry ice later today.
We're getting 3 loads in. We're getting ice in every day. We're having it made everywhere we can. And we normally open at 7 o'clock. But usually there's people here, way before that. And we intend to have ice every day. We're going to get just as much ice as we can.
Sunday, 6 p.m. Families cope and give thanks.
This is what some power lines look like 3 days after Hugo. It is the main power line running down Queens Road. Duke Power has brought in 1,000 additional workers from 11 states to help in the repair. This crew is from Greer, South Carolina, and they say this is the worst storm damage they have ever seen. The main line they are working on runs along Baxter Street and Queens Road. It will be operational tonight, but they say others will take much longer.
Part we're working on, we're looking at least a good week longer, just trying to get the main lines back up.
Yeah. How many hours a day are your guys working?
We're working from 16, maybe 17 or 18.
I can push it back this way. The phone company has also brought in extra workers to restore service. Most phones are working, but some long-distance lines, like this one to Monroe, is out. Bob Friedman says the phone system has been running on generators.
We flew in about 150 portable generators on a C-130 Hercules. Got a couple of hundred men came in from Florida and women.
One thing that's hampering the work are downed trees blocking city streets. City crews have been out all weekend cutting and pushing away trees. Main thoroughfares are taking priority over secondary roads.
Well, it's not just a lack of power that's causing problems in York County tonight. The city of Fort Mill is having a real water shortage. People are forced now to go to local fire stations to get drinking water, and mandatory water conservation is in effect. The mayor of Fort Mill says they hope to have the problem fixed tomorrow. Now, in Gaston County, the damage done by Hugo was quite severe, about $120 million at last count. Power has been restored to about 40% of Gaston County, and some people tonight still without water.
I will tell you unequivocally, I am going to release the names of all businesses caught in price gouging, and I'm going to give it to the press tomorrow for it to be published. We believe this is one way to discourage it. We won't tolerate it.
The Harris YMCA on Quail Hollow Road opened its showers to the public today, much to the relief of these folks.
Yeah, we've been sponge bathing, heating water on the grill, and so we said, that's it.
Wonderful. Great. Fantastic. These kids don't seem to mind the inconvenience, but we asked them besides the shower, what else do they miss the most?
TV. Nintendo.
Glad to know that they miss us.
Yeah. Finally, on this Sunday morning, churches improvised when necessary and said prayers of thanksgiving and prayers of hope.
Prayers that we are here today, that we are safe, that we are gathered with family and friends in this place of worship. We want to offer up some prayers of intercession. Prayers for all of the victims of the hurricane, those in Charlotte and other places who have felt the brunt of this storm. We want to offer up our prayers of God's presence and his healing power.
Monday, how to clean up and cope.
What happened this morning at the intersection of 11th and Davidson? What happened is what officials feared the most. The accident happened just as the rush hour was ending. A police officer and a National Guardsman were directing traffic at 11th and Davidson. A motorist either didn't see or didn't understand a signal from one of the officers. A car drove through the intersection and 2 cars collided. The vehicles then plowed into the traffic cops.
This is Matt. $1 million for me.
Just stand by that, buddy. Get ready to try.
Yes, thank y'all very much.
They just come on?
They just come on.
After 3 days of darkness here in Earl Village, the power is back on again, thanks to a repair crew from Greensboro.
National Guard troops are out assisting with traffic this morning. They have orange vests on, but they have the green fatigues on as well. Make sure you understand that you see them and you understand exactly what they want you to do.
It was the cry heard most often on morning radio, drive with care. And while Independence Boulevard was bumper to bumper for brief periods, the scene from the air showed a pretty typical rush hour in the rain. It wasn't typical for the police and National Guardsmen who spent their time directing cars through busy intersections. Police say the number of accidents was up from a typical Monday.
Do you mind speaking to a family member?
The best way to describe the emergency room at Presbyterian Hospital is controlled chaos. There are people everywhere, nurses scrambling, doctors scribbling notes between patients, and still more patients waiting, up to 3 hours at some times. And most of the problems are related to Hugo.
There are people who are trying to get limbs off houses, who are trying to clear their yards, who are working and not doing stupid things. It's just dangerous out there.
We called it our city of trees.
I need some more nails.
And we called it that with pride. But now, in every neighborhood, every part of town, our pride has fallen. But for every limb that tumbled, did anybody help you? Yes, our neighbors. For every leaf that fell, a story of neighbors has sprouted. They helped out quite a bit, carried limbs and pieces of wood, and they're retired. Had wood down and borrowing and giving ice and water and food and things. So sharing ice? Yeah. That's kind of hard to come by, isn't it? Yeah. Most of them, they go out and give other people what they have. From north to south, from east to west, we see Hugo's scars. They won't heal soon, these reminders of the most horrifying force we're ever apt to know. Even when the wind's just blowing lightly out there, it kind of, makes you sit up and take notice a little bit more. But perhaps those scars and even the wind will remind us, too, that we have neighbors, that someone is there when we need them.
You ever been ill yourself? By this guy.
Maybe now we're the city of neighbors. And what could give us greater pride? Joe McCreary, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Good evening, and there's good news tonight for victims of Hurricane Hugo. President Bush has declared Mecklenburg, Gaston, Union, and Lincoln counties disaster areas. That makes people in those counties eligible for federal assistance. It also opens the door for other North Carolina counties to be added to the list of disaster areas. Preliminary estimates on the damage in those 4 counties is $200 million, but that's expected to go up as more reports come in.
Now, while these Georgia Power trucks will be rolling bright and early in the morning, the school buses will not. They will not run in Charlotte-Mecklenburg for the rest of the week, and so parents here have had to make their plans accordingly.
Caroline, could you join us?
Diana Renfro and her family are getting used to dinner by candlelight. Life without lights, after all, has been kind of an adventure for the whole family.
I made it to work, unshaven. I didn't have my tie and coat on. Most everyone did, but I made it.
But Taylor Renfro can't say the same for his kids. Caroline and Clara are out of school, and they will be all week, posing an interesting challenge for Mom and Dad.
They played outside for several days and got tired of that, so today they played well inside. And they like to dress up, so we're going to stock up on paint from the attic and washi paper and try to stay busy.
Keeping the kids busy this week will pose an interesting challenge indeed. Some daycare facilities are open, like this one at the Harris YMCA. But some parents are finding themselves already turning to Plan B.
We're just trying to branch out and do something. We've been doing nothing but sitting in the dark. We go over to neighbors' houses and talk to them, and not a whole lot we can do.
Gwen Esposito is one of many parents who ended up at the mall with the kids. There is a whole different world here, one defined by our electric lifestyle. And with school out, you can bet slaying that sorcerer will be in. What are you going to be doing all week?
Nothing. I'm just going to be hanging. I don't think I'll ever take hurricanes lightly again, that's for sure. We made a list. I have this complete list of, what to do when they tell me another hurricane's coming. So that's probably it. I won't forget that list. It'll be with me for a long time.
Your Dodge dealer announced Duke Power's Bill Lee called it the company's worst experience as he reported to Gaston County government officials this afternoon.
In Gaston County, Duke Power serves 39,000 customers. We have some 17,000 of those back in service, and we have 22,000 or 57% yet to go.
Dogwood Lane in Belmont remains without power tonight. It's one of many areas which still bear the grim reminders and scars inflicted last week by Hugo. Crews working to restore service to this area have come from as far away as Mobile, Alabama.
Now, I don't know exactly how many crews our company's got in here, but they've got all that they can spare.
This is the kind of problem repair crews are facing. These lines run under all of those trees up through there. They've got to move the trees before they can fix the line.
Another major problem here is the debris left by Hugo. A National Guard unit from Kings Mountain arrived in Gastonia this afternoon with equipment to assist the city with its cleanup effort. And visitors to McCaddenville this Christmas will find fewer lights. Many of the decorated trees there were also destroyed. Louis Brooks, Channel 9 Eyewitness News, Gaston County.
You say, oh my God, what is this? What done happened? What is this?
What it was, a 150-foot tree that Hugo slammed through the roof, missing Tam West and her family by inches.
Mostly I just prayed that our house wouldn't get blown down no more.
I thought most of the house was going to cave down because the tree was on top of the house.
Now, 4 days later, the tree's still there. The hole in the ceiling is getting bigger, and the landlord says he's boarding up the place.
I don't have rental insurance. I never even heard of rental insurance.
The Wests are in big trouble.
If you had to go to a new place, would you have all the money for the first month's
No,
rent?
I wouldn't. No, I don't. No, I don't.
But help might be available through federal aid promised by the president.
That can provide 100% federally funded, rent-free occupation of a home if yours is destroyed for up to 18 months.
The aid can take many forms, from temporary housing to debris removal, from individual and family grants to low-interest loans.
But essentially what we're doing is we're doing whatever it takes to get you back into a safe, secure, and sanitary living condition, which boils down to necessity, what it takes to get that for you.
Help, just what the Wests need the most.
Well, I just pray that we would qualify for it because we've been staying in motels ever since this happened, 5 days now, eating in restaurants, and we can't make it that way.
Steve Gasquet, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Outside the city limits is the Francis Marion National Forest. Thousands of trees in this community of nature were snapped by Hugo's fury. 37 miles from Charleston is McClellanville, a fishing community that was once nestled among beautiful oak trees slung with Spanish moss. It was battered by the same winds as Charleston, but this tiny town took the worst of the hurricane's 16-foot tidal surge.
The worst part was passing the baby out the window when the water was, so high.
The chainsaws are everywhere, but in this devastation they seemed overmatched by the damage. And then there is the mud. Water-filled living rooms and bedrooms, destroying homes from the inside and ruining memories.
Personal stuff that you just can't control, no matter how much money or insurance or anything you have.
McClellanville is starting to get relief supplies, but there is a different attitude here. People are thankful for what they have received, but they also seem overwhelmed by the devastation.
They won't let people in and out, and what purpose is that serving? They're slowing us down. Some people don't have anything to do this weekend. Come on down.
McClellanville,
right. Help us with some physical labor. We need some strong men.
And once the mud is gone, there will be questions about the fishing future for this village, both for the old residents and the new.
Only one person that I've talked to out of many said that they had flood insurance. Almost everybody else has none. They considered this high ground, some person told me.
David Haynes, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
You don't have any food?
No, I don't.
You have 2 kids?
Two babies. They're 2 and 3 years old. Yes, they are.
Now, what do you think the people here will be able to do for you?
Well, hopefully, I'll be able to get some food.
It was a story repeated again and again today as hundreds of people lined up for disaster relief in Charlotte. They were willing to wait for hours for some milk for their children and hopefully about $30 worth of groceries. Good evening. It was a stark reminder that those of us who are only in the dark without power are really very lucky. There are many in our community who are much worse off.
There are indeed, and Red Cross volunteers worked long hours today to try to meet those needs.
Channel 9's Steve Gaspar was there today as family after family filed by. And Steve joins us now live.
Well, Meg, Bill, right now they have just locked the doors here at the United Way Auditorium in Uptown, a place where Red Cross volunteers have been working hard all day trying to meet some very desperate needs. Needs for food, clothing, and shelter. Things that may have been lost when Hugo came to town.
We lost all our food in the freezer and the refrigerator, and we ain't got nothing to eat.
William Thompson came here to replace that loss. His home on Bryce Avenue just got power back, so he could refrigerate groceries again if he could afford them.
Do you have any money?
No, sir.
Any friends that can help you?
No, sir.
Danielle and Melissa's moms, too, came here to replace spoiled food. Their apartments on Conway Street are still without power, but these girls are taking it all in stride.
You like the candles when they put them on at night?
Yes.
Do you hope that your mama will always put on candles at night?
Yes.
How do you read at night?
I don't even know how to read.
In all, hundreds came for help, looking for food, clothing, shelter.
It's going to be a long day, and if we can help each other, it will be really great.
The people we met had a long wait, but they weren't cut off. And finally, 6 hours and 20 minutes after getting in line,
314, table 3.
William Thompson told the Red Cross volunteer all about the groceries that went bad. And he came away with a voucher for $31.
Was that worth it?
Yes, sir, I think it was worth it. Because so many people have spent so much money to help the people when really need help.
And when we left, Melissa and Danielle were going on 7 hours.
You want to go home?
Yes.
Do you want to go home, too?
No.
Well, nonetheless, they did go home, and all in all, about 470 people were helped here today. That represents quite an effort of the Red Cross and the United Way to get out some food, clothing, and shelter to people who are forced to do without because of Hugo.
What'd you have for lunch?
A bologna sandwich.
Was it good?
Kind of. I've been here for the last 2 days. Chicken.
Right outside Waxhaw, there is such a thing as a free lunch. Are you feeding all of Waxhaw here?
Well, we're just feeding anyone who needs to eat. Anyone without power or anyone who doesn't have the facilities to cook at home.
And free breakfast and supper, too, thought up by the superintendent of the Union County Monroe Schools, hot meals, cooked and served by school employees, all volunteers.
Just seeing the children saying they hadn't had nothing but peanut butter and jelly for 2 or 3 days, that was really worth it all.
They're expecting 1,000 people for dinner tonight in a town that has a population of 1,383 and a lot of damage. A town now covered by its trees. Old trees, historic trees, and Waxhaw's a historic town. President Andrew Jackson was born in these parts, and it's through history, through antiques, that Waxhaw's made its name. There are more than 20 antique stores here, some heavily damaged. Yet despite that, this weekend they're having their annual Antique and Craft Fair. Waxhaw will come back, they say.
Yes, we can. We still have a lot to be thankful for. You know, we're alive. I didn't lose my home.
Half the town still without power, half the houses damaged still under trees. But Hugo left Waxhaw with a new awareness that it's a good place to live, a good place to move to.
Oh, it was wonderful. We really got to know our neighbors. It was almost worth what happened to make such good friends out of them.
In Waxhaw, Joe McCrary, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Probably passing my son out the window because the water came up so fast we had to get on the roof. And I'm sure that's what I'll remember more than anything.
A storm.
Emmett Shackelford has experienced a lot in his years, but never a miracle until last night. He was shaken today when he shared his story with me, still trembling as he showed me what used to be the bedroom he shared with his wife, Mary.
We went to bed underneath that tree.
That they survived the cave-in was miracle enough, but he said there was another miracle, too.
Well, the phone was at a little bedside table there. And at first it was on, and then it went, dial tone disappeared, and then it came back on again long enough for us to call out.
Emmett's one call was to 911. That's when his heroes arrived. 5 firemen, He doesn't know their names. He can't remember what they look like, only that they saved him and his precious Mary.
They climbed over the tree and got Mary out first and then got me out. So I drew strength and then just lifted us on out.
All that's left of their room is a crocheted shawl and lace curtains. But to really understand how total the destruction and how complete their miracle was, I climbed through a neighbor's fallen tree to get to the Shacklefords' backyard. These pictures tell the story best.
Somebody's looking over them. They were lucky. Yeah, they were lucky. It's amazing.
And a miracle. C.J. Harrison, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
As Hickory's northwest section saws its way out of the wooden prison built by Hugo, residents are finding some tree crews who are looking for a fast buck.
Oh, yes, it was almost $10,000 just to have a few trees removed from the house and the trees removed from the yard.
But overall, the greatest help here is coming from neighbors. People like Kevin Johnston.
Our next door neighbor over here, Mr. Abernathy, had a real big pine tree fall across the driveway, no way to get out. So we had to cut it out and then got to the road after the worst of the storm had lifted and got out and, did what we could to help.
Hugo shattered daily routines of a lot of people here, but it also has brought communities closer together.
You don't see everybody like you used to. Everybody's so busy now, but it's good to see everybody out and helping each other out.
Rural residents around Hickory are hurting most. Without power, they're forced to carry water in for drinking, bathing, and to operate their commodes.
We'd love to have our power back on, but we're making out.
Over 25% of Catawba County remains without power tonight. Duke Power says it may be early next week before they're all back online. In the meantime, Catawba Memorial Hospital has begun marketing its own Hugo memento.
They're going to put this on T-shirts, sell the T-shirts, and give the money to the needy from Hugo.
Louis Brooks, Channel 9 Eyewitness News, Hickory.
She had to have a C-section. She had a fractured hip at one time.
It was meant to be a home delivery, but the mother had trouble. The trouble paid off 2 weeks ago with twins. 2 beautiful baby kittens. But last Wednesday, 2 days before Hugo, real trouble began. In this truck where, unknown to her humans, the mama cat, whose name is Joyce, had moved with her family.
And my husband drove it to work, and then my brother-in-law borrowed the truck.
Jill's husband drove here about 4 miles away, and then his brother took the truck all across town. When he finally found the babies, Joyce was gone.
Now, when he called, he was down towards Carowin, and we live right at Harrisburg. So I figured that's where she got out at.
By truck, it took 40 minutes to get the kittens home.
I took the milk and I dumped it in the cat's mail.
With a dropper?
Yeah.
The next night, Hugo hit, and the Moonies knew they had orphans. But as they were looking at the damage, Hugo left last Saturday. Guess who came up?
She was real hungry and she ate a whole bunch.
She was also wet and cold and tired. Her little paws were bloody, but first aid fixed that up. And the kittens?
She was sad when the mommy was gone.
But you're happy now?
Yeah.
Just another Hugo story. This time, a good one. Joe McCreary, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
It may be tough for some people in Charlotte to feel very fortunate, but compared to Charleston, the Queen City got off very lucky indeed. 30% of this old city is gone, and it seems at times that Hugo got every single tree. Still, the attitude here is thumbs up. This is a city that is scrambling to rebuild itself.
How many houses you worked on so far?
Close to 50 since Monday morning.
How about today?
Today we've done 11.
You see the most unusual work groups on any street in Charleston. While a crew of electrical workers from Florida clears a power line, a group of Air Force mechanics, 20 in all, is taking a huge tree from the home of an elderly woman.
These guys couldn't wait to get off this base to get down here and help their community out. They were asking, when can we do it? When can we do it?
Like just about everyone else in this town, the workday goes from sunup till sundown. These men say as long as there's plenty to eat, they will work. A block away from the troop, 70-year-old Erline Livingston was doing some tree removal of her own. She didn't expect to get rid of the whole tree, which she explained actually belongs to a neighbor. She just wanted to clear a path for her car. It looks like you got about 10 years worth of work in this yard with a bow saw.
20. More like 50. Oh,
You sure do have a good attitude about it.
well, why worry about it? You can't do anything about it. And learn no how.
David Haynes, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
In time, most of the physical scars left by Hurricane Hugo will heal. Twisted trees, crumbled buildings, lives uprooted by chaos. But we will never be quite the same. And wherever the word hurricane is mentioned, it will mean only one thing to most of us: Hurricane Hugo.